Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, March 9th, 2020. Madam Vice Chair, if you'll go through tonight's agenda.
Yep, we have our call to order and Pledge of Allegiance. We have open forum. We have an appointment with our DPW Director, John Haynes, to sign his contract, and we have action items.
All right, thank you. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And just to let folks know, Mr. Sheedy won't be able to attend this evening's meeting. And with that, we'll go into open forum. If anyone's here for that, Ms. Hill, come on up. Good evening. How you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Hi, I'm Katie. I work in the town clerk's office, and I'm here with Nancy Hill.
Nancy Hill, Council on Aging Director.
And we just wanted to briefly discuss the federal census, which will be coming out, and just have an opportunity to explain to you and to the citizens. First, the town clerk's office just wanted to clarify that the residents of East Bridgewater have already received the local town census, or sometimes referred to as the street listing. So hopefully they've already filled it out, made the corrections, and returned it back to us. So this is separate. This is the federal census, which happens every 10 years. So we just wanted to briefly discuss it. These are the statistics that shape the understanding of our country's health, social, and economic well-being. When we get the census wrong, it takes a decade to correct it. So some of the ways that it has affected us in East Bridgewater is that it's an estimate for the state that this past, in 2010, there were 20,000 children under the age of 5 that were missed in the Massachusetts 2010 census. I just wanted to point it out because it's actually something we've noticed in the town census as well, is we have a hard time capturing the children under 5. And it's something right now that it's a great time to kind of raise awareness, and it is important to put the children and babies on list them on your census, town census, as well as the federal census, once we'll be coming around. March 12th through the 20th, everybody in the town will receive an invitation to respond. This year's a little different. There's going to be responding online. So this is the first time that they've ever done that. You can also call and respond over the phone as well. And then April 1st is actually Census Day. So that's the day that they want everybody to respond by. As always, there's a little bit of a buffer zone, I believe, until July. And then in May, if you didn't respond to the 2020 census, that is when actually people referred to as door knockers will be kind of coming around and asking people to respond either in person or helping them respond. And Nancy is going to talk a little bit about the impacts we've seen in the senior citizen community here in East Bridgewater with the census.
All set?
Yep.
So many may not know that in Massachusetts, each Council on Aging every year receives a grant from the state based solely on the number of older adults aged 60 and older that are counted in their particular city or town. And once that number is calculated, the grant is based on that number for the next 10 years. So currently we are operating from numbers from the 2010 federal census in East Bridgewater. That number is 2,651 residents aged 60 plus, although according to the town clerk's most recent records, there are over 3,400 residents aged 60 plus in East Bridgewater. So it's important to be counted. Our state grant currently is used for some Council on Aging salaries, printing and mailing of our monthly newsletter, some programming, mileage reimbursement, training, conferences, and among other things. So it greatly supplements our town funding, and I can't stress enough how important it is for older adults to complete their census forms. If you're a snowbird and you seasonally live at another address, you should be counted at the address where you live and sleep most of the time, meaning 6 months plus 1 day is where you want to be counted. The data is for statistical purposes only, and your responses on the census will not affect property tax or insurance premiums. The Census Bureau will never ask you for your full Social Security number, bank accounts, or money of any kind. So I'm sure that with this census coming about, the scammers will be right out there trying to get some personal information. So please, everyone out there, take note that they won't ask you for your full Social Security number, bank accounts, or money of any kind. The census is safe and confidential. Title 13 of the U.S. Code protects the confidentiality of individual responses to the census, and private information is not published until 72 years after it is collected. The census responses can't be used against you in any court of law or by law enforcement. And it takes, census takers take a lifetime oath, and if they violate it, the penalty is up to $250,000 or up to 5 years in prison. So there are some pretty serious penalties for not protecting your personal information. So if older people need assistance filling in their forms or doing a form online or assistance over the phone completing their census, please stop by and we'd be happy to help you. We want everybody to be counted.
Great, thank you.
Thanks
Thanks.
for coming in.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else here tonight for open forum? Hmm?
Is a business transfer considered?
No, no,
Nope.
okay. So with that, I'll close open forum. We'll jump into our first appointment with DPW Director John Haynes. Good evening. All right,
So before you tonight is the approval of the director's contract. We've been in negotiation for 3 months, and I'm pleased to present to you a finished contract that has been approved to form by the town council and is before you now for signature. Does reflect an increase in his compensation because his duties have changed substantially in a sense that he has never been addressed for the changes that have occurred in his department with the addition of sewer, facilities, the MS4 permit obligations, green community, MVP, and complete streets. The contract also removes 2 weeks of vacation. So there has been concessions in both directions. And it is before you for signature and approval. Mr. Haynes has seen the contract, and you did see the contract?
A few
Okay.
times.
And he's ready to sign this evening.
Excellent.
great. Anything to add?
We're glad we reached a consensus so that we could get this done.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
just.
hate to see you go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I just think over the years, so much has been added, hasn't really been addressed. I mean, you've taken it on, I mean, just the MS4, the MVP, I mean, and I know as my position as selectman, a lot of calls I get, you're the next call I'm making after that. So, I mean, just someone that's really great to work with and, just someone that really cares a lot about the community and really gives 120% all the time. So really appreciate your efforts over the years.
That's a good point, Bill, because I know I've texted you and called you many times off hours, and you're always quick to respond and have a good thought.
There really are no off hours in this job.
Yeah.
No, I've, for the last 22 years, which doesn't seem possible, I've had a very unique opportunity to make a difference in the community that I live in. Not only that I work in, that I live in, and that's unusual nowadays, and it's a great benefit for myself and my family, and I have the support that I receive and the things that we've been able to accomplish. It's truly a team effort. It's not an individual thing, but we are able to. We've moved a lot of things forward that as a town we should be very proud of, and I don't think we acknowledge often enough the really good things we've done. And so with that, I really look forward to continuing to work with the board and with Brian. We've already got some really exciting things doing, and fellow department heads, we've been able to make a lot of things happen. And so I continue to look forward to the future. It's exciting.
Great, thanks.
Good.
There's 4 copies, John.
I think you need to make the motion to accept
You want a
that.
motion?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we go into contract with DPW Director John Haynes as printed.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Oh,
It's a little better.
is it dark?
I'll let you know when they're all signed.
Yeah.
Everything.
Do the license transfer next. That'll be quicker. Conservation stuff.
Sure, sounds good.
Continue on with-
Okay.
Thank you. again.
All right. Thank you.
We'll expedite this along.
Okay. With that, we'll move into our action items this evening.
All right, we're gonna take these a little bit out of order to make things easier for our guests, so we'll go to action item number 11. I make a motion to approve the application for the transfer of the common victual license from Papastellio's Inc., doing business as Stelio's Pizza House, to Two Chefs Kitchen LLC, doing business as Perfectly Flavored Cafe. You guys wanna?
Come on up.
Hello,
Good evening.
thank you for having us. Give you a little background about myself, our company, who we are a little bit. My name is David Casey. This is my business partner, Nicole Bartlett. We are the 2 owners of Perfectly Flavored Cafe, and with your approval tonight, we'll soon be a new addition to the town of East Bridgewater. We are both executive chefs who have graduated from Johnson & Wales University. I, David, are going into my 24th year in the restaurant business, as I started washing dishes at the age of 14. Over many years of being in the business, I have not only worked with some of the best chefs all around New England, gaining more knowledge and staying with the trends in the food industry, but I have also had the honor of being a general manager for 5 years. Recently, I competed on the Food Network's Guys Grocery Games, opened a restaurant locally as executive chef and part owner, and have been on the Phantom Gourmet and their great top 8 Greek restaurants in the state of Massachusetts. Let's see. Nicole has also been gifted with a great talent in the kitchen, which has led her into multiple openings and setups of new restaurants. In 2018, we both created our own separate meal prep / catering companies in providing healthy, well-balanced meals for our clients. Nicole has also set up a personal chef service where she created personalized menus upon each client's dietary needs. Also, with her sales and event degree, it has shaped Nicole into an outstanding caterer, while she has provided service for over 100 events. What we'd like to do at the cafe is provide everyone with healthy meals that are well-balanced. All meals will be fully prepared with a protein, starch, and vegetable. We will provide our community with fresh and healthy meals when in season, vegetables from our local farms, as for instance C.N. Smith, C&C Redding Farm. We also like doing business with Crochetti's or DeAndrea Foods, which I used at my other restaurant. So I'd like to stay with as many local items and places that we possibly can, which means fresh, never frozen food, which is always a good thing. We also want to take part in many town activities, local school fundraisers and events, and also be able to sponsor some of our local sporting teams. We will be serving on our menu fully prepared salads, fully prepared meals, protein bowls, overnight oats, acai parfaits, protein shakes, and baked goods, plus a new spin on some healthy flatbread pizzas. We will also be offering a little retail line of some spice rubs, fresh salsas, and more. We look forward to providing the community with a new spin on takeout, but with healthy options for everyone and their family, so that it puts a little bit of time back into everyone's lives. Let's see. Not everyone has time to shop, time to cook, and time to clean. So let us take care of all that for you by stopping by Perfectly Flavored Cafe and giving us a try. One thing I would like to change, which I have written down on our application, was our hours. I know I wrote down a Tuesday through Sunday, I believe an opening of 10 to 7. One thing I would be requesting is if I could possibly change that to 7 days a week, and if we could open as early as 6 a.m. and close at 11 p.m., just because we'd like to offer some different events, bridal showers or stuff like that, if people want to come in and have little private parties, and also do cooking classes in time that some of our clients have asked us about. So we'd like to be able to offer some stuff like that and have our license cover us within those hours.
And what's your request on Sunday hours?
Sunday, just in case, we were requesting a 10 to 4, but I am going to change that till, what do you think, 8 p.m., if that's possible?
8 p.m.?
That way, if we do any events or anything like that, license does cover us within those hours.
And do you want 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.? Or
Can you want to just do 6 a.m. to?
6 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
That works.
Really want to be at work 6 a.m. on Sunday?
Oh, I'm usually out the door by 5:30 every day, so it's a good thing.
So you can.
Right. And I'm sure we'll be there every day. So we also offer catering and plan on having different events, like I just mentioned. We do have a big request for kids cooking classes, which is one big thing we really want to try to implement some sort of program where if it's like a 1 or 2 night thing where kids can come in for an hour and a half, learn your basic, cutting skills, or learn different types of variation with vegetables and what they can do, stuff that they can kind of do at home. So that's the reason why we kind of want to change our license up to be able to offer different services like that at our establishment. So other than that, I'm just going to end with thank you guys very much for your time. We look forward to becoming a new business in the town of East Bridgewater and providing people with healthy, fresh, fully prepared meals to kind of put a little bit of time back in their lives. So thank you guys for your time today.
Great. It sounds like you got quite the business plans there between the private parties and the cooking classes for kids. It sounds great.
We do, and it's over the past, we've both been in the restaurant business for a long time. I've worked on many lines. I've done my 100 hours a week for a certain amount of years and have barely taken a vacation in probably the last 10 years. So in the last year, we've created a service staying within the culinary field, which we absolutely love, but has also taken some of the stress out of our daily life as well. Instead of being that, gotta get food right up, we want to focus more on quality and consistency, and creating this type of trend in business in the area has allowed us to live a healthier life, eat healthier meals, and provide that service to our clients. So it's gotten to a point where here we are and opening a storefront.
Great.
So.
Best of luck. Any concerns with the time and change? Or
No, I
anything?
think that's fine. I mean, you're probably thinking you'd be there, but you wouldn't necessarily be open.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just in case, whether it's prep time or we have a catering
Yep.
job or an event that we
So
need to
you
go
can
in a
get that
little
done
earlier,
before you
yes.
open. That makes
Yeah, I just didn't know how it worked, where if we listed with you guys that we were gonna be closing at 7, say if a Wednesday night we closed at 7, but we also had a private event till 8:30 and 9 o'clock, we just wanted to make sure that our license would allow us to be able to stay open till that time to do an event like that.
Great.
That makes sense. I think the cooking classes sound fun, and
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We've had a good report on people wanting cooking classes, so that'll be, once we get going and up and running and get into the swing of things, that'll be something that we try to start up and get people to go over there for.
Yeah.
So,
I know one of my kids will definitely be looking to do the cooking
can I
class.
send my
Love that.
husband?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, you
We'll
can.
do an adult cooking
Yes.
class, do couples
not part of
cooking
the
classes.
Although I bet you we would probably fill up with some husbands
Yeah.
getting a little
Yeah.
cooking.
Survival cooking.
Yes.
I think it's great. I know people will miss Stelios, but I hope that the community will come out and support you guys as a new business in town.
Yes, and we look forward to hopefully staying in that location and giving good, consistent, quality service for as many years as they've been there as well.
Good.
Great.
So,
Wish you good luck with it.
thank you, appreciate that.
Take a motion on that.
I made the motion when we started.
No, it's
so-
all right.
You have to now accept it as amended.
Right, because we amended the hours. So I make the motion with the amended hours. Do you need to read those? Because I didn't catch everything.
Monday through Saturday, 6 AM to 11 PM, Sundays, 6 AM to 8 PM.
Okay, so without those amended hours, I make that motion.
All right. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, best of luck.
Yeah,
Thank you,
good luck.
appreciate it.
And do you want your license mailed to the Summer Street address? This one here?
You want to do next?
So now do we want to go to the Conservation Commission?
Sure.
Okay.
Action item number
The only
8,
other thing you have to
I make a
do
motion to
is,
appoint Kelly Milne
the
as
current
alternate
license,
member
the
on the
business
Conservation
has to
Commission
discontinue.
from a permanent member
Correct.
effective March 9th,
And then
2020
And then
through June
you have to
30th,
get
2021.
that
Down
news
at
to
town
the
clerk's office, see Michelle Dahl.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah,
I make a motion to appoint Amanda Tipperman Frieda as a permanent member of the Conservation Commission from an alternate member effective March 9th, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I make a motion to approve the request from the Conservation Commission to file an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to properly assess the extent of wetland plants and possible connectivity to bordering wetland area on town-owned properties.
Yeah, you want to come up and just give us a little
Explain
background
that?
on that one? I mean, we
I
know,
made the
I
motion,
think
I'd
we have
love
an
to
idea
know.
about it, but yeah.
So we recently had a filing that, for property for 23 acres that abuts town-owned property. And through the filing and other filings in that general area, we feel that there's wetlands on the town-owned property, and that would connect all of this, and it becomes jurisdictional for the Conservation Commission, and any activities they need to file under the Wetland Protection Act. So the commission voted to have a botanist go out and delineate the wetlands on the 2 town-owned parcels, which has been done. Now we want to move forward by having it located onto a plan and then holding an ANRAD is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. So it's been delineated, we're putting it on a plan. By you filing it, then it will become a hearing probably next month. And that record will then go on file, if it's approved, if that line is approved. So we don't know what it is. And then it would become jurisdictional. So any other activity that's going on in that area we've got a good, solid plan. It's
Great.
been a lot of historical data that we've used, you know, for surrounding subdivisions and other activity in the area. So we really do feel it is jurisdictional, but this would prove it for sure.
All right, great,
Okay.
All right?
thanks. All right. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Going back to number 1. Make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 10th, 2020, 6:30 PM Board of Selectmen's meeting.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to approve but not release minutes of the February 10th, 2020, 6:55 PM Board of Selectmen's executive session meeting.
Second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 24th, 2020, 6:30 PM Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
I make a motion to approve, but not release the minutes of the February 24th, 2020, 7:45 PM Board of Selectmen's executive session meeting.
Second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. I make a motion to approve to postpone increased trash fees from the start date of March 1st, 2020 to a start date of July 1st, 2020.
All right, second, any further discussion?
No, I think it came to our attention that we weren't giving people enough time to opt out if they didn't want to continue with the town, so putting it this way, and then I think keeping it on a fiscal year rotating schedule, should we have to make any changes?
And I agree, I think if people want to opt out and look at other.
Gives them time.
It gives them time, so.
Yep.
Because again, it is completely voluntary, so. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to approve for Alan Hiltz of the East Bridgewater Fire Department and Community Emergency Response Team to utilize the Sachem Rock Farm for training CERT volunteers as to responsibility when working with SNR dogs of April 6th, 2020, from 6 PM to 8 PM. This event is not open to the public.
All right, second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. I make a motion to approve for Corin Ziegler of the East Bridgewater Community Gardens to utilize the Sachem Rock Farm for Tomato Festival, Saturday, August 15th, 2020, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Rain date Sunday, August 16th, 2020, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
And this is open to the public.
And this is open to the public, and it's tomatoes.
Tomatoes. All right, second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. Heartily in favor of that. All right, we did 8, 9, 10, and 11, so our last action item. Make a motion to accept the articles for the May 11th, 2020 town meeting warrant. Esteemed town administrator says we have to go through them one by one.
One by one.
All right,
Yay.
Okay. All right, we'll start with Article 1.
For the special?
Of the special town
Yep.
meeting. That's an article to transfer money to meet obligations of union and personnel contracts for the town in the current fiscal year. We have some sick leave buybacks for the fire department, the building department, and the water division. So we have to transfer some funds in to actually cover those obligations. And by the way, I'll keep going until you say you have a question.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
fine.
yep,
Article 2 is to cover the snow and ice removal deficit. While I don't expect it to be great this year, there will be a deficit.
any estimate
was-
right now?
Too early.
All right,
It
okay.
was 65 today, but you know, it's March. We
Yeah,
can still.
it's too early. We can still be salted, you never know.
Yeah.
Article 3 is a request from the school committee to replenish a revolving fund because of an arbitration award that they paid out last year. So that's in the special because we want it to occur in this fiscal year. Article 4 is to raise and appropriate from free cash, actually, $34,504 to reimburse the schools for homeless transportation. Massachusetts has a law called McKinney-Vento, which requires the towns to transport to and from residences outside the town, those residents that are homeless and displaced, and therefore we want to continue the education for their children in town. Unfortunately, it's expensive, so that is a burden. And they've overshot their homeless transportation budget, so this is an ability to transfer in money to cover that current deficit. Article 6 is going to appear several times in the warrant. This is a request by the fire chief to buy a new fire tower truck. He's got it in the special, he's got it in the capital article, and he's got it as an article in the regular warrant. So I guess, he wants it.
Not 3 times, though. We're only buying
You're
one.
only
Only
buying
buying
one.
He only gets one.
Good. His concern is, if you do it in the special, the funding's available immediately. And he could place the
So you
order
can order
immediately.
it right away.
Which means it'll get here sooner. But the special town meeting requires a quorum of 100. So if he doesn't have a quorum, he therefore has put it into the regular warrant. So either way, it can be brought up and voted on. Article 7 is an article that we will see for the last time in the special. This is an article that appropriates the money that's been received from the public library fines and fees back to the library so they can use it to purchase other resources for their collection. That's only a $3,000 transfer, but you'll see when we get to the annual warrant that I've put in a revolving fund.
Excellent.
So this is where it really should be
One less
handled,
thing,
and that was
yeah.
permitted under the Reform Act of 2016. And this is sort of ridiculous to keep doing something, small and meaningless like this every year. So we'll stop that practice.
Okay,
Turning to the annual town meeting. The annual town meeting, I need a much bigger audience to play to.
We don't even have copies.
Just think about all those people at home, Brian, that are
Right.
watching.
Article 1 is to accept the reports of the officers, boards, commissions, departments, et cetera, as printed in the annual report. Article 2 is the actual omnibus budget of the town. This is everything to do with the operations of the town, with the exception of the enterprise funds. which in this case is sewer. I beg your pardon, water. Article 3 is the capital article. This is an article put forward by the Capital Budget Committee that includes all the large purchases for town departments, all town departments. And you can see that the tower truck is in here, and police cruisers are in here, street sweeper is in here, road repairs, which also appears elsewhere, is here. So obviously, this article will transform as the Capital Budget Committee continues its deliberations. Article 4 is to move money to meet the obligations of union and personal contracts in the fiscal year coming. So where we had one before that covered last year, this one now covers the future year. That may not necessarily be required at this point and may be struck before the warrant goes to press. Article 5 is to allow the Board of Selectmen to accept grants in behalf of the town and then to expend them as necessary or as directed into the grant program. Every spending of town has to have an appropriation. Even if the state were to hand me another $1 million, I don't have an appropriation to spend it. So the idea is when you accept a grant or you accept an award from the state or federal government to do a project, you need an appropriation to spend it. You need a vote of the town meeting. So this covers you for accepting grants and being able to actually spend them on the appropriate purpose.
Are we getting one for $1 million?
I wish. Yes. Article 6 is to accept Chapter 90 money, which is the road money, and to expend it on the roads. And it's open-ended because you don't know, the state can sometimes give you a supplemental appropriation. So obviously, it's designed to go to the roads, so then you need an appropriation. So this is sort of if you get money from the state, you can spend it on what its purposes are. Article 7 is an authorization from the board for the treasurer to borrow money during the normal course of business to cover temporary cash flow deficiencies. That requires a town meeting vote to borrow money, so it's in here in advance. Fortunately, the town's been very lucky. We haven't had to do that, so but we always want to keep that option. Article 8 is to fund the enterprise fund for the water account. And then Article 9 is for any capital projects for water. Article 10 is to set the wages and compensation for elected boards and officers of the town for the fiscal year coming.
Still no raise for the selectmen?
As it should be.
If you'd like to propose it, it is your warrant,
No, no.
or as they say, your criminal.
Could request the chairman get one.
We have the next article, we have a bond, general bond that's will be sold next year, $1.6 million. Depending upon what the sale price is, you might get an excess premium. This allows you to take that premium and appropriate back to the purposes of the bond. So, Article 12 is to keep unclaimed funds. So if we write you a check and you don't cash the check, after a year, we can reabsorb that money back into the general fund. If you come up, later and say, I have a check that's a year old and you want to, we can still replace it, but instead of literally sending the money to the state, we keep it here in town.
Okay.
So, Article 13, it allows, this is really sort of significantly important. Right now, the town is barred from signing a contract for goods and services for more than 3 years. This allows us to do, under certain circumstances, 5 years. This would be required, even if the school department wanted to do something, it would still require a vote of the Board of Selectmen to do any contract in excess of 3 years. So the idea is that instead of having to call a special town meeting or put articles on the warrant to adopt a lease that's longer, like copy machines, telephone systems, or most notably the bus contract, could simply be approved by the Board of Selectmen. It does not apply to employment
That's what I was
contracts.
going to ask you.
Article 14 is to put a fund of money aside for healthcare cost mitigation. We are looking at what our options could possibly be under the GIC and removing ourselves from GIC, what options would be available for our employees that would save both our employees and our town money and offer perhaps a better coverage. So right now, we have the Insurance Advisory Committee and we have a consultant working on those possibilities. But there would be a possibility of making that jump and have to mitigate any planned disruption that would occur. And so this creates a fund of money to do that. Article 15 is to purchase software. The best way I can describe this one to make it real clear is ClearGov. The Board of Selectmen made it very clear that they would like far more transparency in the financial workings of the town. So we're looking at software that would be able to be on the website that would update from internal sources. The schools have used that system. Because of procurement law, I can't actually say I'm going to buy ClearGov. We'd have to put it out to bid and see who wins the bid. But ClearGov type software is what I'm after.
Are there competitors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's OpenGov and there's a whole raft of them.
Okay.
There is an advantage in both in pricing and in synergy, keeping it the same.
Because the schools use them?
But under procurement law, it goes to
Right.
the least expensive vendor. Article 16 is the article for increased funding for road repair. Under the pavement management plan, the pavement management indicates $501,000 is required here. That is on the warrant. That's a pretty simple one-sentence article. We'll see how much controversy we have. Article 17 is the OPEB article. OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits that are paid to retired employees of the town. Right now, we have about $10,000 sitting in a Bartholomew fund to fund a $64 million liability. For the millions of years that the town's been in business, it's been as a pay-as-you-go proposition. After 2008, the federal government said you had to identify your liability and that you had to make a stab at doing something to resolve it. This is our first effort to make a stab at doing this. This would allow us to move the funds from the Bartholomew Fund to the state's trust fund. The difference is that the Bartholomew Fund that the town has right now pays about 2.36%. The state plan last year paid over 9%. This would cut roughly a third of our liability simply based on those numbers. So that's a logical thing for us to do. But now I have to fund it, and this comes to the next article, which is to see if the town will accept the meals tax, which is 0.75%. So right now the meals tax is 6.25%. This would add 0.75% for the town, making the meals tax 7% within the town of East Bridgewater. That would possibly raise as much as $200,000, perhaps more. And that would be my recommendation, that this funds be directed to our OPEB liability. And this would make a big difference. It's important to do it under the meals tax. I need to identify a source of revenue we don't already have. By using the meals tax, you're paying a meals tax virtually in every other town around us. And so you're paying for their OPEB liability. You have a choice here in East Bridgewater to let me tax your house for that OPEB liability, or let you tax the people who drive down 18 and stop at Dunkin' Donuts. So on a cup of coffee, it's about 2 cents, not a lot of money. On a $100 restaurant bill, it's 75 cents, so not terrible. And with our function halls in town, I think that we could cover our liability without affecting homeowners.
Yep.
And I mean, every town around us has it.
Every
I mean,
town.
it's pretty much, Freetown, Acushnet, and I think Holbrook are the
Yeah.
only 3 towns that don't.
I'll have
it, so.
a colored
You'll
map
have a
of
good
the,
presentation.
Yeah.
to see what it is.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to if your town has, I mean, the meals and hotel tax was adopted in Plymouth, and that's how they built their new town hall.
No.
So, we're not Plymouth, I get it. Sachem Rock isn't Plymouth Rock, but, we're working on it.
No, but we do have restaurants and we do
Yep.
have wedding venues, and I think that's,
Yep.
could be a significant.
Article 19 is to amend the general bylaws of the town to allow cultivation in the town. This is part of expanding our base of taxable property, and hopefully solving some of our budget crunch without balancing on the homeowners.
And, I mean, just to be clear with folks, this is not a retail shop. This would strictly be cultivation, manufacturing. Again, not a retail shop, so just to
Yes.
remind folks of that.
Article 20 is to amend the zoning bylaws to provide an overlay district for cultivation. They're long, by the way. Article 21 is to see if we would be able to fund some electrical upgrades and improvements in the town. We had a slight windfall of free cash this year, and rather than just buying one-time things, I'm looking to find things that can have a return on our investment. The facilities manager has come forward with some energy savings initiatives that could bring a savings of about $42,000 to $50,000 a year in our electrical bill, but I have to invest about $400,000 to do it. But the electric company will give us 50% rebate, so our payback period's about 3 years. So that's a pretty good investment. So, and I think it will, according to the Finance Committee, this is gonna take a lot of explaining to do. But I think it's sort of a, when you have a payback period that's about 3 years, that is a no-brainer. When it goes beyond 5 years, it becomes less of a no-brainer. But here we're investing some money that will save energy and save money.
Well, and I think too, one of the things we sometimes get criticized for is that we don't invest in our facilities and then buildings get run down and they need to be replaced. So by doing something like this, we're being proactive and updating some things before they get.
Well,
into
it's also a
building
harder
repairs.
bill. For example, some of the electrical suggestions are ripping out every light fixture in the high school. And the high school was just built. And you say, well, why would we do that?
7 years.
Well, because the technology in the 10 years since the school was designed has changed dramatically, and we would save money by literally ripping them all out and replacing them. But it's a bitter pill to
It is.
swallow when you just built it.
Yep.
So,
And we're still paying for it.
Right.
Still paying
That-
for it.
That is tough.
Article 22 is a law that was adopted by the Commonwealth in 2016 that allows the Board of Selectmen to regulate the speed limit on town roads. Only two options, 25 or 20. Right now, if I want to change the speed limit on a road, I have to go through a rather long process of an engineering study on the road and figuring the average speed on the road, and the cost of doing that study is somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000. This simply allows the Board of Selectmen to reduce in selected areas the speed limit down to 25 with just a public hearing. And in a school zone, obviously, or safety zone is what they call it, 20. So that would allow the Board of Selectmen a little bit more flexibility to address those issues about speeding in very sensitive areas. Article 23 is a vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell the Gladys Farron cottage. You may recall that I have been proposing demolishing it, and that we've had meetings on it, but the Historical Commission and the Historical Society have asked me to try to sell it before we try to destroy it. So I think that's a very valid request. It's already been sitting 3 years since the last time it came up at town meeting. Another year isn't gonna kill us, so if we can sell it and get it moved, which would be the terms of the sale, I think that that would be a benefit to all concerned, so. Article 24 is to remove the elected constables and move them all to appointed. This is a recommendation of the Attorney General to the towns with elected constables because of the lack of regulation on the qualifications for constables. So in addition to ending elected constables in the town, we would be setting up some protocols by the Board of Selectmen wherein constables would be appointed through the police department, so we would have training and requirements and education, which we don't have today. The state is very much not happy with the elected constable situation, And we're not going to end anybody's term prior to its natural expiration, but we would just end the concept of elected constables.
I think their terms all expire next year, right? That's the-
This is 22.
I think through 22, I think we've got
Oh,
people.
okay, they're
Yeah.
four-year
I
terms.
think they're staggered. Article 25, the town owns a parcel of land known as Leland Farms, which right now is being leased out. That originally was done in 1977, and the town meeting article at that time was proposed, and it allowed for the town to lease that out on 3-year intervals. But we're supposed to go back to town meeting every 3 years and ask permission. So we're now going back to town meeting and asking permission. Article 28 is to amend the town's personnel bylaw. As I have pointed out to the Board of Selectmen in the past, the personnel bylaw is a little archaic, and it needs a little work. This would allow the town to amend the personnel bylaws and adopt policies enacted by the Board of Selectmen in employment, rather than codifying every employment rule in a bylaw. When the bylaw was first adopted, we had plenty of time. Employment law was very different than it is today. We have to be more nimble. We have to move a little faster when things change. And we have laws now that are very different than when the original bylaw was adopted. So this amends it, brings it up to speed. Personnel Committee is holding hearings on this, and then will make its recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
When was the last time that was updated or really looked at?
Well, it gets
or was-
amended every once in a while, for wage scales and
Mhm.
things of that nature, or the addition or removal of positions in the town. So there's been regular updates, but there's been no wholesale overhaul.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest concerns I have about that particular ordinance is I'm not sure that we'd be in compliance with the Equity Pay Act. So that's my first concern. And there's some other things in there that I think are outdated. There's the longevity payment of an extra 5, 5, and 5 within 10 years. I think that was a spiking move many, many, many years ago, which is now illegal anyway. So it's time to update that. Article 27 is to remove the police department from civil service. The chief is already out of civil service, but the deputy down to the patrolman is all civil service. Civil service is, this could be hotly contested. So we definitely want to look at this. But civil service isn't allowing us to hire as quickly as we would like, nor create a more diverse force here. So consequently, it's a move on our part to take some handcuffs off and be able to do what we need to do. Interestingly, it really won't change our actual internal policies. We do promotions through an assessment center rather than through testing. So mostly our employment procedures would remain unchanged. And this article grandfathers in anyone that joined the department during civil service coverage. So even though the department would be coming out of civil service for future hires, current hires would still be afforded those rights and privileges. So there's really virtually no change. Article 28 is an act called the Prudent Investor Rule. Really bad timing today to talk about this. This would allow the town to invest money outside of the restricted list that the state distributes. Right now, we have a legal list of investments that was established literally after the Depression and gets amended very slightly every so often, but it is not particularly reflective of good investment procedure. And this would allow the town to go out and invest in items that would get us greater return than our 2.36%. Although I know today we'd probably
Maybe
be
not.
happy with that, but the idea would be to be able to take some ability to invest in some tech stocks and a little bit more.
Do most towns go outside the legal list? I mean, is it some that were?
Towns that haven't, this only came into being in 2016. The first town to adopt it was Cohasset. They went from an average return of 2% to last year having a return of 11%. Now, that may be changed today, but the fact of the matter is, even with today, you'd still be higher than 2%. So we need to look, and I am not interested in, investing in derivatives or going to Vegas and throwing it on 21. But I am interested in being able to pick the stocks that are more reflective of today's proper investment policy without creating any great or additional risk to the taxpayer. So we need to be able to have a little more flexibility than just the legal list. And this was a law that was adopted by the state of Massachusetts that allowed a town to do this, and I'm recommending strongly that we definitely want to put our toe in this water. Okay. Article 29 is an article by the library trustees to amend the compensation and wage scale of the public library. Article 30 is an article to transfer money to the Special Education Reserve Fund. One of the problems we always have in school budgeting is the special education can often be a surprise, and the surprise is not inexpensive. So they tend to budget very conservatively and estimate very high. This will allow the town to build a reserve fund that would be available to the school by a vote of the Board of Selectmen and the school committee to tap into this fund in the event of a surprise that would allow them to not have to inflate their regular budget to cover any unforeseen expense. So this is actually a budget leveler, if you will, so we can actually smooth out the bumps a little bit for the school department. Article 31 is to accept Bayberry Lane as a public way. The road was built properly. The contractor did default. We did seize the bond, but the road has never been accepted, even though the town plows it. So we want to basically correct that. Article 32 is the same article, but for Johnson Farm Road. As you know, we're trying to whittle away at our 20 miles of unaccepted road. These have either come to my attention because of the ease of taking the road or the ease of perfecting the right-of-way. So we're going to pick off the easy ones first, and every year we're going to keep going until we clean this up. Article 33 is a very long article. We have a request from the DPW director to accept an easement across private property. And we're working with town council to perfect the language and create a diagram, but it really will be a no-brainer. Article 34 is from the Board of Assessors that allows for an increase of 50% of the property tax exemption for blind, elderly, widowed, or disabled American veterans with a service-connected disability. And that has to be done every year, and it is quite consistent with what we've done in the past. The next article, if I've done this correctly, I think this might have repeated the wrong article. Yeah, I think I did. Well, no,
No.
different clause.
Different.
It's also from the Board of Assessors to allow, let's say, a veteran, for example, who has an exemption, transfers his property into a trust for his children. Under the old rules, without the exception of this, he would no longer be entitled to his tax break. But we know it's just an instrument of recording rather than an intent to dodge taxes. So consequently, this would allow us to accept alternative instruments in holding.
Has that been an issue at all in the past?
It
or-
can be usually, but the problem is, without this article, you can't accept it. The
Yeah.
minute
Okay.
they take themselves off, and the state,
Make an exception,
Yeah.
we have to
We
have
did
the
have it,
article.
and we did have that happen last year.
Okay.
with Someone, that did a lot for the town,
Mm-hmm.
and our hands were tied, so so we look into it and make sure that what they're living in the house, that it's just a matter of putting it in for whatever future, safety for that person.
Article 36 is very important to the town. This is the best way to describe it, the school roof. This is to accept the MSBA's offer for funding on the school. But it's twofold. One, we have to accept it as a motion in town meeting because of the grand amount of money it is. And we have to vote it at the full value of the project, even though the state's going to give us back 57.71% of it. So consequently, we have to vote it this way, and the wording that you see here is exact wording from the state on how we want to accept it. We want to make sure that when we explain it, we are clear about what we're doing here, because it's over $1 million, and it will require bonding, so it's a 2/3 vote. 37 is the tower truck.
It's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, He's coming.
He wants that truck, huh?
He wants that truck. Article 38 is to move money from the ambulance receipts reserved to purchase supplies for specialized equipment for mitigating the Massachusetts casualty incidents, which I'm not quite sure what that is, but I'm sure Tim does. Article 39 amends the town's bylaws to add the public library revolving fund. Article 40 authorized the spending
Brian,
limit.
just on that Article
Yes.
39, now, does that have to be authorized every year, or is it a
No,
one-time?
you create the
changed it, right?
bylaw. The bylaw, yeah, it's sort of a change, but it's sort of interestingly odd the way they do it. You're creating a bylaw which you no longer have to authorize the account every year.
Okay.
Prior to
Years
2016,
ago,
you
we
did.
had to,
Right, but you still have to authorize every year the spending limit.
right.
So I think they sort of goofed when they wrote the thing, because the idea was not to have to do both.
Mm-hmm.
Now I still have to do one. So the next Article 40, which is really just a pro forma article, it doesn't mean that we're spending
It
taxpayer
means that's how
dollars
much
per
they
se.
can spend.
It's money that's coming into the fund
For
from
fees.
the activities of the library that needs to
Yep.
go back to.
Yep.
So recreation, for example, charges fees, and the money goes back to recreation programs. The passport photo fees, for example, come in, and then we buy the supplies out of it. So it's just important that there be because again, the appropriation idea, this is spending town money, so you have to see it come in, and you have to see it be authorized to go out.
And, going back to Article 38, I think that should be a correction. Should
Sure.
be mass. I think they can buy equipment like bulletproof vests or helmets. I think it's supposed to read mass casualty incidents.
Oh, Mass, not
Mass,
Massachusetts.
yeah, I think-
Okay,
Yeah,
Very
because they're
good.
talking about active shooters, and
Thank you.
incidents, so.
excellent. Okay, Article 41. This is going to be fun. This removes the quorum for special town meeting. Right now, the quorum's 100. It's a little hard to get 100 people, surprisingly, and even more so for a special. So this would remove the quorum count for 100, when we want to spend more than X number of dollars. So it's conceivable that with the MSBA, we might have to go for another town meeting vote in the fall. I don't want the lack of a quorum to stall a project of this value where the state's carrying more than 50% of the cost. So I'm just trying to be, a little proactive.
Well, speaking to colleagues in other communities, when they remove quorums, they get more people show up. It's an interesting
Really?
Yeah.
study on human behavior, that people worry more if there isn't a quorum, so they come.
Yes, actually, since anecdotally, we removed it in a previous town, and we've never had less than 300 at
Yeah.
a town meeting.
It's,
We couldn't get a quorum. We'd ring the fire bell, we'd get everybody on the phone calling, couldn't get a quorum. Now we took the quorum away, never have to worry about it. So, Article 42 is to add money to the stabilization fund, should there be any money left over in the warrant. So that's where we are.
on page 56, my name is spelled
What is misspelled, I'm sorry?
wrong. On page 56.
Oh, there's an E. It's,
Yes, please.
Carol. Her name.
Oh, yes. So we still have a little more work to do. The Monday after the town election, I'll be back for that's a Board of Selectmen's meeting, and we'll sign the warrant for posting. The posting requirement for the special town meeting is 14 days, plus the date of the meeting, plus the date of the posting, so 16 days prior to town meeting. The annual town meeting postage requirement is 7 days plus 2. So my attitude is we'll post them both at the same 14 plus 2. And we should have our warrant ready by that time. So
Good job. It's a lot of
Great.
work putting
A lot
that
of work,
together,
yeah.
it,
especially the
a
first
lot of
one in
moving,
this town.
moving targets.
Next year will be easier.
And thank you to the FinCom and Capital. I mean, it's.
FinCom is doing fantastic. I'm pleased to work with them.
Capital, we don't have
Capital needs to meet a
Still
little more
waiting.
frequently.
Right.
Because they've got a lot of work to do, and I'm a little nervous because they're not meeting this week. And they definitely are behind the schedule, so
Well, hopefully they'll
they'll
reach
catch up.
consensus
Pick up the
quickly.
pace.
They'll
Get
catch
those
up.
recommendations in.
As long as we keep the DPW director out of there, it'll be fine.
All right, are you good with all the articles?
Yeah, fine.
So, and the motion? All right, any
I
fur-
made the motion when we did the
All right,
discussion. so.
and I'll second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Brian. All right, that is it for action items,
All right,
Mr. Chairman.
all right. Anything for town administrator report? We've basically
Thank you.
covered
Do you
it.
have anything left to say?
I sort of had to shift gears a little bit in the last couple of weeks and concentrate solely in budgets and in the town meeting warrant. I've had some other issues. We responded to complaints on shutting down Robbins Street, which we are working on. So we actually had to open the street physically and keep the access rate to the water open. We have received multiple neighbor complaints about that, but I have received very good
Complaints that you opened it or complaints that it was blocked
that it was
off?
blocked.
Okay.
And then I have received tremendous cooperation from the party that was blocking the road. They've been very cooperative, so I can't complain. So
Hopefully it's straightened out now going
for
forward.
a little while,
Yeah.
I think so. But there are some very significant issues there about vandalism and
And the warm weather's coming.
yeah, and there's, biggest problem the neighbors are complaining about is because of the access to the water is needles and stuff like that. So we've increased police patrols in that area, so hopefully we can discourage that kind of activity. See where we go from there. And if anything else I'm doing that I need to worry about. We do have,
That,
what one is that one?
that's the right of way.
Oh, the mowing. Yeah, on the website as well, Eversource has notified us that they're going to be doing clearance, cleaning the right-of-ways. So if you see that going on, the vegetation maintenance is out there. And also, right now, they're looking at 27 Cedar Mill Lane. And they're sending a letter, oh, this is just a sample letter, right?
That's
Sent
what
this
we
to
got.
everybody, okay. They're sending letters to the abutters so that they know to expect company on the right-of-way. Right-of-way goes through a lot of land here. So if you see the vegetation trucks out there, you know that they are legal and they have a right to maintain the lines to keep them free from interruption.
That's fine, we don't want them coming down in a storm.
No, no, plenty of problems there, but other than that, we're doing great.
Great.
Great. Anything else for announcements or staff reports or?
This is a little early, but the Ann Kenley Hines Memorial Scholarship Committee will be doing a bench dedication honoring Jamil Siddiqui, Friday, June 12th, 2:30 to 4:30 at Town Hall. The bench will be located outside of Town Hall here.
Great.
So they've requested meeting space
Great.
here.
Okay.
Great.
It's nothing that needs really approval.
Yeah.
But they just sent a letter in requesting, approval for it, so we did let them know that they could use the space.
Dealings with that committee, they're always very conscientious and they always take care of all their detailed work.
Yeah, so we'll send them a letter letting them know that they can use it.
Great. Anything for board discussion?
I want to thank the town clerk's office. We had voted stickers. I voted stickers last
Yep.
week. Everybody was very happy to get their I voted stickers.
Yeah.
And the voting process went great. The new little voting booths are nice to use and
Yeah.
thought it was, everything went very smoothly.
Oh, yeah, yeah, they really
That's-
do.
That is a lot of hours. that
Yeah.
they-
Oh, yeah.
They spend there. and
They had all those workers.
It went so well.
Yeah.
They did a great job.
They all did a
so
great
thank you to
job.
them.
And I think it worked out great having the early voting. I mean, I saw plenty of people coming in for
For
that.
the people whose candidates dropped out by the
Oh,
time
yeah,
Tuesday rolled
yeah.
around, right?
Anyway, a definite thank you to the Board of Selectmen for making this room available for early voting and not making them go up the
That's
stairs.
Oh,
easier
yeah,
for
no,
people.
that's fine.
It did inconvenience us a little bit, but the convenience for the greater good.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, anything
That's it
else?
for me.
All right, still need our executive, correct? All right.
I make a motion to go into executive session.
All right, second?
You gotta sue the whole thing.
Julius, I.
No,
No?
you need to say.
Oh, I have to read this whole thing?
Yeah.
I forgot, okay. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, Department of Public Works Teamsters Union Local 653, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body as the chair so declares, and not return to open session.
All right, second?
Julius, I.
Dowling, aye. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
There's a lot of ayes.
Yeah.